What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with the MLB Week 21 power rankings as we're only 5 weeks away from the end of the regular season. This is the time where some teams are going to make a push to possibly get into that wild card or win the division. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button down below. At 26 through 30, nothing changes here. You get your bottom of the barrel teams. Marlins, Rockies, White Sox clearly going to be under 500 now. White Sox worst time ever, worst record ever in 108 years after 131 games at 31 and 100. This team is on paper going to be the worst team ever in the history of Major League Baseball. And there's not much left to be said about that. Even the Tigers are going in there and sweeping them. Rockies, they're bad. Marlins are way worse than we thought they would be, but that's because, just didn't work out for them at the beginning of the year, traded some pieces away. And it's just, unfortunately, just a rebuild year for them, along with the Angels and the A's and Oakland. At least they're playing some better baseball as of late. Now, 25 through 21, the only team that I'd be looking for here to make a run is the Blue Jays, just because they've won four in a row, and that's against the Angels. They're, I think, 9.5 games back out of the wild card. Five at Boston, three at Minnesota. If you want to do it this week, you got to go 6-2 this week. This is your chance to possibly get back in that thing because Boston, they're on the outside looking in, and Minnesota is one of those wild card teams. So if Toronto wants to get in, they got to have a huge week this week, and they got some momentum going into it. Rangers, I think it might be time to wave the white flag. Scherzer still doesn't know when he's going to pitch. DeGrom's back soon, but I think it's too little, too late. This team just doesn't have it. That World Series hangover is going to happen in Texas. The Pirates are limiting Skeens' innings now going forward, so I think they're kind of out of the running. And then the Reds just kind of have fallen off. So, the only team that maybe has a chance at a playoff berth is the Blue Jays here. Now, 20 through 16, I think all these teams are still have a chance just because they're right around 500. And, one good week of 6-0, and you're right there in the thick of things. And I think that's to be said for the Rays, Tigers, Cardinals, Giants, and Cubs. Don't know why their logos aren't switched, but Cubs are at 16, Giants are at 17. And the Rays and Tigers, coming out of the AL, I think they have the benefit of the doubt a little more because they're going to have to do a little more to get into the playoffs. So right now, if they were in the NL, I think they'd only be 5 games back. But right now in the AL, I believe they're 7.5. So those two teams, they're going to have to put together some good series going forward where, Tigers have 6 games at home this week against Boston, who's barely ahead of them, and then the Angels, who just got swept actually by those Blue Jays. So the Tigers, it's possible if they can get to 500, anything's possible because we saw this team like a month and a half ago. They were 10 games under 500, so they're playing some good ball since the start of July. Cardinals, Cubs, Giants hanging around that 500 mark for now. What it seems like the last month, as no one can really push it to the next level. But it definitely is in the cards. And I think, speaking of the cards, I think it's the Cardinals could be that team to push it, push the limit, and possibly squeak into the playoffs. Now, 15 through 11, the Mariners fall off, has to be studied. We saw their manager get fired, Scott Service, after, just having a huge lead in AL West, and now they're not even, feels like, in it. So he got fired, brought in someone new. He's their manager, and they got a series win for him, 2-1 against those Giants. But going forward, I don't think this Mariners team can make up that lost ground just because how good the Astros are playing. Red Sox fall 2 spots here because they went into Houston, got a big series win, and then at home against the Diamondbacks, not a good look getting swept there, especially when you're on the outside looking in. Mets are playing some good ball, Braves are playing some good ball, and I think it might be between those two teams possibly to get that last wild card spot. And it's just going to come down to, I think they play one more time this year. It's going to come down to that series if they do. If not, then these division games are going to be the ones where you can see here. Atlanta's got a tough schedule this week where the Mets, got the hottest team in baseball right now in the Diamondbacks, but then 3 in Chicago. So you got to sweep those. And then the Twins falling out of my top 10 after 2-4 week last week. Kind of disappointing. The San Diego series was tough, but the St. Louis one, I think they could have won at least one more there. But they get Atlanta and Toronto. And, I said Atlanta's got a lot to prove. Toronto, they're hot right now, and they could come in guns a-blazing and possibly upset the Twins here in a series win. So the Twins got to be careful here. They got to start piecing it together, playing some better baseball if they want to make the playoffs. Now, 10 through 6 here, I think these teams aren't a lock to make the playoffs, but it's feeling very, very reasonable that these teams will get in. especially the Padres and the Brewers, just because the Brewers, I think, are going to run away with the NL Central. Closest team is the Cubs and the Cardinals right there around 500. The Padres, unfortunately, they're in the Dodgers division, so they're probably going to be the best wild card out of the NL. And then you have the three AL teams here in the Guardians, Astros, and Royals. Huge series for the Royals and Guardians to start this week, as if the Royals sweep them, they're going to be winning that division in the AL Central, where if Guardians sweep them, that division lead is going to be almost too much to come back from. So it's a big week for both of those teams. Then you got the Astros still just ho-hum playing really good baseball. And when it comes September, so next week, I expect this Astros team to really turn it into another gear. Now, 5 through 11, speaking of that NL West, you got the Diamondbacks on 6-game winning streak last week, and they get the Mets and Dodgers at home. Don't count out these D-backs. We saw them struggle early in the year. Corbin Carroll's playing a lot better. The rotation looks a lot better, and that's mostly because everyone's healthy. And that 3-game series at the end of the week against the Dodgers, there might be a chance that the Diamondbacks have the best record in baseball at the end of the week, and that they are winning the NL West over the Dodgers. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there definitely is a chance that could happen at this time next week. So make sure you guys watch that series this weekend. But then you have the Orioles and Yankees. Yet again, those two teams just battling out with a few games, apiece, that they are really divided. And I think the Orioles, Yankees, that one's going to come down to the last week of the season. I don't think anyone's going to pull away there. Then the Phillies, they're in the NL East. We thought the Braves could possibly contend, maybe the Mets, but I think the Phillies are just going to slowly run away with this thing. They have been struggling, though, as of late. They were one of the hottest teams in baseball. They've really fallen back down to earth and some. And you get 7 games this week against some teams that are right there, playoff teams. So the Phillies, it's a big week for them at home to really get back on their feet. That's going to be it for my power rankings this week. Check back next week to see where your team ranks and to see who's hot and who's not. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.